The moment Armin Qureshi saw the termination letter, his hands didn't just tremble. They forgot how to hold anything at all. The paper slipped from his fingers and drifted to the polished office floor like a final goodbye. 5 years of rebuilding his shattered life, gone in a single signature, and the woman who had signed it, the new boss everyone admired, had eyes that haunted him in a way no stranger ever should. Before we go deeper into the story, take a second. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the mysterious ways life works, like comment, share, and subscribe to Heartfelt Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Armin had not always been this fragile version of himself. There was a time when his laughter filled rooms, when his dreams stretched far beyond deadlines and survival. That was before the accident, before the rain-soaked highway took everything from him, before he stood in a cold hospital hallway, being told his wife, Sanaa, was gone forever. 5 years had passed since that day, but grief had its own calendar. Some days, it felt like yesterday. Other days, it felt like a lifetime ago, like he had lived several different lives since then. What kept him moving forward was his daughter, Meher. She was just 3 when Sanaa died, too young to understand loss, but old enough to feel the absence of warmth only a mother could give. Armin became everything for her, a father, a mother, a protector, and sometimes, when nights got too heavy, just a quiet presence sitting beside her as she slept. He worked tirelessly, taking on multiple responsibilities at a mid-sized tech company, slowly climbing his way up through dedication and silence. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was dependable. People trusted him. His bosses relied on him. For the first time in years, stability had begun to settle into his life like gentle sunlight after a long storm. Then came the announcement that everything would change. A new CEO was taking over, a young, brilliant woman named Zara Malik. People spoke about her like she was a storm wrapped in elegance. Sharp, decisive, unstoppable. Armin didn't care much about corporate reshuffles. He had learned not to expect permanence from anything, until the day he walked into the boardroom and saw her for the first time. The air had shifted. His breath caught in his throat. For a brief, impossible moment, time collapsed, because sitting at the head of the table was not just his new boss. It was a face he had buried in his memories, a face he had kissed goodbye, a face he had watched disappear forever. Sanaa. No, it couldn't be. His mind rejected it instantly. Grief had played tricks on him before. He had seen her in crowds, heard her voice in strangers, felt her presence in empty rooms. But this was different. This was real, tangible, alive. Zara spoke with confidence, outlining her vision for the company. Her voice calm but powerful. But Armin couldn't hear a single word. His heart pounded so loudly it drowned out everything else. He studied her every movement, the way she tilted her head, the subtle curve of her smile, the intensity in her eyes. It was her. It had to be her. And yet it wasn't, because when their eyes met, there was no recognition, not even a flicker. Days passed, but Armin's world had been thrown off balance. He tried to convince himself it was just a coincidence, that people could resemble others so closely it felt eerie. But every instinct inside him refused to accept that explanation. He began observing her more carefully, searching for something, anything, that could confirm or deny what his heart already believed. Meanwhile, Zara began making changes in company, major ones. Departments were restructured. Performance evaluations became stricter. Several employees were let go. The atmosphere grew tense. Armin, who had always stayed under the radar, suddenly found himself under scrutiny. He started making mistakes. Small ones at first, missing deadlines, overlooking details. His focus was shattered. His sleep was restless. His thoughts were consumed by one question. How could a woman who looked exactly like his dead wife be standing right in front of him, living a completely different life? The answer came brutally, without warning. He was called into her office one afternoon. The sunlight streamed to the large windows, casting long shadows across the room. Zara sat behind her desk, composed, distant, professional. She slid a document toward him without hesitation. Termination. The word felt heavier than anything he had ever carried. She spoke about declining performance, about the company's direction, about difficult decisions. Her tone was steady, almost rehearsed. There was no emotion, no hesitation, just finality. Armin stared at her, searching desperately for something familiar beneath the surface. A memory, a spark, a crack in the carefully constructed facade. But there was nothing as he walked out of that office. Something inside him broke in a way he didn't think was possible anymore. Not because he lost his job, but because he had just been erased by someone who felt like his past, his present, and his unanswered future all at once. Losing the job hit hard, but losing hope hit harder. For days, Armin drifted through life like a shadow. Meher noticed a change immediately. Children always did. She didn't ask many questions, but she stayed close, holding on to him a little tighter, as if she sensed he was slipping away again. One afternoon, while sorting through old documents to figure out his next steps, Armin came across something he hadn't touched in years, a small box filled with memories of Sanaa. Photos, letters, little pieces of a life that once felt permanent. He opened it slowly, his hands trembling, and then he saw it, a hospital report. He had read it years ago, but grief had blurred everything. Now, with a clearer mind, he noticed something he had missed before. The report mentioned severe injuries, yes, but it also noted that the body had been identified under chaotic circumstances. There had been confusion. Errors were possible. His heart began to race. What if the thought was too big, too dangerous to fully form? But it was there now, refusing to be ignored. Armin began digging. Quietly at first, then obsessively, he revisited the hospital, spoke to old staff members, followed every thread he could find. Most of them led nowhere. But one small detail changed everything. A transfer record. An unidentified patient had been moved to a private facility shortly after the accident. The timeline matched. Hope, fragile but fierce, began to grow. It took weeks of persistence. But Armin finally found the facility. And there, buried in records that had long been forgotten, was a name that didn't belong, but a face that did. Zara Malik. She had survived. But not as Sanaa. She had been found with no memory, no identity. Someone had given her a new name, a new life, and she had built herself into someone powerful, independent, unstoppable. A completely different person with no connection to the past she had left behind. Armin stood there, the weight of truth crashing over him. She wasn't pretending. She didn't remember. To her, he was just another employee, another stranger. And yet, she was a love he had lost. Days later, Armin made a decision, not out of desperation, but out of something deeper, understanding. He didn't storm into her office. He didn't demand answers. Instead, he wrote her a letter, not about the past, not about who she used to be, but about who she was. Strong, resilient, someone who had unknowingly inspired him to fight again. He left the letter anonymously. Weeks passed. Then one day his phone rang. It was her. Her voice was different now, softer, uncertain. She said the letter had stirred something inside her. Not memories, not yet, but feelings, questions, a sense that there was more to her story than she understood. Armin didn't rush. He didn't force anything. He simply met her where she was. And for the first time in years, hope didn't feel like something fragile. It felt real. As their paths slowly began to reconnect. Not as husband and wife, but as two strangers discovering something familiar. Armin realized something powerful. Love doesn't always come back the way you expect it to. Sometimes it returns in a new form, asking you to believe all over again. Before this story ends, if it touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, comment, and share it. Stories like this live because of you. And here's something special. Comment below. I believe in second chances. If you feel that love, no matter how lost, can find its way back. Because sometimes the person you thought you lost forever is just waiting to be found again in a completely unexpected way.